The space station was quiet except for the low hum of machines. Alex moved through the dimly lit maintenance corridor with a small toolkit in his hand. He had been called to repair a damaged power relay in the alien sector of the station. It was supposed to be a simple job, quick and easy. He didn't know that this day would change his life forever. The door at the end of the corridor hissed open with a sharp sound. Inside, blue mist floated in the air, glowing faintly under the fogly emergency lights. Alex stepped in carefully, wiping the sweat from his forehead. The power readings were unstable, and he needed to fix them fast. He walked past a row of strange alien pods, each one covered in symbols he didn't understand. His eyes caught a faint flicker from a control panel. He knelt, opening his toolkit, focusing on the repair. A sudden loud hiss made him jump. One of the pods had opened behind him, releasing a cloud of shimmering gas. Alex turned, and his breath caught in his throat. Inside the pod stood a tall figure, her body covered only in a thin layer of glowing liquid. Her skin was smooth and faintly iridescent, her long silver hair clinging to her shoulders. She blinked slowly, her golden eyes locking onto him. Alex froze, his tools falling from his hand with a metallic clatter. The alien woman stepped forward, her expression shifting from confusion to shock. Then her face hardened into something else, fear mixed with anger. "Human," she hissed in a voice that sounded like a mix of a whisper and a growl. You have seen me unclothed." Alex's mouth opened, but no words came out. He raised his hands instinctively, as if to show he meant no harm. I didn't mean, I was just fixing the relay," he stammered, before he could say more. Alarms suddenly blared around them, red lights flashed, and heavy footsteps echoed from the corridor. The alien woman's eyes widened as the sound of approaching guards filled the air. She stepped closer, her wet hand grabbing his wrist with surprising strength. "You fool," she whispered sharply. "You've doomed us both." The doors slammed open, and a group of armored alien guards stormed in. They aimed strange glowing weapons at Alex, shouting in their language. Alex couldn't understand their words, but their tone was clear. He was in trouble, deep trouble. The alien woman stepped in front of him suddenly, raising her voice. Her words were sharp, commanding, and the guards instantly froze. Alex couldn't understand, but the way they looked at her made one thing clear. She had authority. After a tense moment, she turned her head slightly and said in broken English, "He is my chosen mate." Alex blinked, his heart pounding. "Wait, what? Mate?" he whispered, his voice barely audible over the alarms. The guards lowered their weapons slightly. Glancing between the two, one of them barked something in their language. The woman's grip on Alex's wrist tightened, her golden eyes locking onto his. "You will follow my lead," she said coldly. "If you don't, we both die." Before Alex could respond, the guards surrounded them. He was grabbed roughly, his toolkit falling to the floor as they pushed him forward. The alien woman stayed close, never letting go of his arm. The corridor was filled with flashing lights and the heavy sound of boots. Alex's mind raced, trying to make sense of what just happened. They were led into a large chamber filled with strange symbols and glowing pillars. The air felt heavy, like the whole room was holding its breath. The guard spoke rapidly to a tall figure at the center. A council leader, perhaps. Alex stood there, confused and terrified, while the alien woman spoke in her sharp, commanding tone. He didn't understand the language, but he understood her voice. It was the voice of someone fighting to stay alive. After a long moment, the tall figure nodded slowly. The alien woman turned to Alex, her face cold, but her voice steady. "In my culture," she said quietly, "to see a warrior's body is sacred. If you are not bound to me, they will kill us both to protect honor." Alex felt his stomach drop. "This is a mistake," he whispered. "I didn't mean." "There are no mistakes in the eyes of the law," she cut him off sharply. "You are mine now, human. And you better learn fast if you want to live." The guards shoved them forward again, leading them deeper into the alien sector. Alex glanced at her, his voice trembling. "What's your name?" She paused for a moment before answering, her voice low and filled with tension. "Kayla." Alex swallowed hard. "I'm Alex," he whispered back. Her golden eyes flickered for just a second, something unreadable passing through them. "Alex." She repeated softly, then her tone hardened again. "Stay close to me." "Mate." The doors slammed shut behind them with a metallic echo. Alex's heart pounded in his chest as he realized the truth. One small mistake had thrown him into the middle of an alien law he couldn't escape. And now his only chance of survival lay in the hands of the angry, beautiful warrior walking beside him. The room they were taken to was vast and cold. Massive crystal pillars lined the walls, glowing faintly like frozen stars. Alex stumbled as the guards pushed him forward, his heart hammering in his chest. Beside him, Kayla walked with perfect posture, her face hard like carved stone. Her hand still gripped his wrist, not out of kindness, but as if holding onto a weapon she refused to lose. At the end of the room sat a circular platform. On it stood 6 alien figures, tall and elegant, wearing flowing armor decorated with strange runes. Alex could feel their piercing golden eyes on him. A heavy silence filled the air as Kyla stepped forward, speaking in her sharp, melodic language. Alex didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. It was not begging, it was commanding. Kyla's voice echoed through the chamber, and even the guards seemed to stiffen at her tone. The central figure, taller than the rest, responded. Slowly, each word heavy. Kyla's grip on Alex tightened as she turned slightly towards him, her expression unreadable. "You must understand now, human," she said quietly in broken English. "My people, we are warriors. Honor is our law. Our blood, our life." She took a slow breath, her golden eyes locking onto his. To see a warrior's body is not small thing. It is sacred. Alex swallowed, trying to keep his voice steady. "I didn't know. I didn't mean." Kayla cut him off sharply, her voice like a blade. "Intent does not matter here, only law." The council leader spoke again, his deep voice vibrating through the chamber. Kayla listened, her face still hard, but Alex saw a flicker of tension in her jaw. Finally she turned to him, her words cold and final. "They give us 72 cycles," she said. 72 hours in your time. We must prove the bond." Alex blinked, confused. "Bond? What does that even mean?" Kayla leaned closer, her voice dropping to a low whisper. "It means they must believe we are mates, bound by honor and life, or they kill us both." The words hit Alex like a shock. "This is insane," he muttered, his hands trembling slightly. "I don't even know you." Kayla's golden eyes burned into him. "You will learn," she said simply. "You have no choice." The council leader raised a hand, and the guards moved in again. Heavy cuffs of glowing metal were placed around both their wrists, linking them with a faint blue chain of light. Alex tried to pull away, but the chain held firm, humming with strange energy. Kayla didn't resist, her face still as stone. They were led out of the council chamber into a long corridor of black steel and glowing blue veins that pulsed like living light. Alex glanced at Kayla, his voice low and tight. This can't be real, right? Some kind of misunderstanding?" Kayla didn't look at him, her voice calm but sharp. "It is more real than the blood in your veins, human." They were brought to a chamber with a single bed, strange alien symbols etched into the walls, and faint blue mist floating near the ceiling. The guards spoke in their language and then left. The door ceiling shut with a hiss. Alex stared at the glowing cuffs linking him to Kayla. His voice broke the heavy silence. "Do they expect us to?" He stopped himself, his face heating. Kayla turned her golden gaze on him. Unreadable. "They expect bond," she said simply. "Our people's way is not yours. It is not about pleasure. It is about loyalty. Life survival." Alex sat down heavily on the edge of the strange bed, rubbing his face with his free hand. "This is crazy," he muttered under his breath. Kayla tilted her head slightly, her voice calm but with a sharp edge. "Your world has laws, yes? Touch forbidden things, you pay the price. This is same." For a long moment, they sat in silence, the faint hum of the cuffs filling the room. Finally, Alex spoke, his voice softer. "What happens if we can't prove it?" Kayla turned her eyes toward the door, her tone flat and final. "Execution." The word hit the air like a hammer. Alex felt his chest tighten, his breath coming faster. He looked at her, his voice low. "Why did you tell them I was your mate back there?" Kayla's golden eyes met his, and for the first time, her voice softened, if only slightly. "Because," she said slowly, "if I had not, you would already be dead." Alex stared at her in silence, his fear mixing with something else, respect. Maybe even gratitude. He let out a shaky breath and nodded slowly. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay. So what do we do now?" Kayla stood tall, her silver hair falling over her shoulders like liquid light. She stepped closer, the faint glow of her skin reflecting in his wide human eyes. "Now," she said, her voice firm, "we survive." Faint hum of the cuffs grew louder for a second, as if the chain itself recognized the weight of her words. Alex stared at her, realizing that whatever this was, there was no going back. He was bound to this alien warrior now, not by choice, but by law and survival. And as her golden eyes held his, a chilling thought entered his mind. This wasn't just about pretending to be mates. This was about life or death. The door sealed. With a deep metallic thud, leaving them alone in the glowing room, Alex swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. "What's going to happen to us, Kayla?" Her gaze stayed locked on him, her voice low and steady. "Everything," she said, "or nothing. Depends on if you can play your part, human." The door stayed locked behind them. The soft hum of the energy cuffs the only sound in the strange alien chamber. Alex sat on the edge of the glowing bed, his thoughts spinning. He couldn't believe this was happening. Just a few hours ago, he was fixing a power relay. Now he was chained to a silver-skinned alien warrior and told they had to act like mates or die. Kayla stood near the door, her posture rigid, her golden eyes scanning the room as if searching for hidden threats. Her face was calm, but Alex could see the tension in her jaw. For a long time, neither of them spoke, the silence pressing down on them like the weight of space itself. Finally, Alex broke it, his voice low and uncertain. "So, how exactly do we prove a bond to your people?" Kayla turned her gaze to him slowly, her expression unreadable. "Our culture tests loyalty and survival, not words," she said, her voice sharp but calm. "They will watch, listen, test us. If they see weakness, we die." Alex swallowed hard. "This feels like some kind of nightmare." Kayla's lips curved slightly, though it wasn't a smile. "For me too, human," she said. "Do not think I wanted this." The faint blue glow of the cuffs cast strange light on their faces. Alex stared at the floor, then looked up at her, his voice quiet but serious. "Then we work together, right? If we want to live, for the first time." Kayla's expression softened slightly. She gave a small nod, her voice low. "Yes. Survive first, argue later." The wall opposite them lit up suddenly, making Alex flinch. A large crystal panel came alive, showing the cold, golden-eyed faces of the alien council. Alex's heart skipped a beat, realizing they were being watched. Kayla stepped forward, pulling him slightly with the chain, her voice switching back to her native tongue. The council spoke, their deep voices echoing through the room. Alex couldn't understand the words, but he didn't need to. The way Kayla's shoulders stiffened told him enough. When the screen went dark again, Kayla turned to him, her expression grave. "They will send test," she said slowly. "They want to see if our bond is real." Alex frowned. "What kind of test?" Kayla's golden eyes met his, and for the first time, he saw something dangerous there. The kind where failure means death. She said quietly. The door hissed open suddenly, making Alex jump. Two armored guards entered and threw a small device onto the floor. It unfolded into a floating orb, scanning the room with a red beam. Kayla grabbed Alex's wrists tightly, whispering quickly, "They watch every move now. Do not flinch, do not look weak." Alex nodded nervously, trying to steady his breathing. The guards spoke in their language, then left, sealing the door again. The orb hovered in silence, its red light sweeping over them like a predator's eye. Kayla turned to him, her voice barely a whisper. "Sit," she said, guiding him to the bed. Alex sat stiffly as she sat. Beside him, the glowing chain between them humming faintly. She leaned closer suddenly, her silver hair brushing against his shoulder. Alex's breath caught, his face heating up instantly. "What are you, act?" she whispered sharply, her golden eyes locking onto his. "They must believe," Alex nodded quickly, his heart pounding in his chest. He tried to look calm, leaning slightly toward her. Kayla studied his face for a long moment, then gave the faintest nod of approval. Hours passed like that, with the orb watching their every move. Kayla explained more about her culture in low whispers. Alex learned that her people's concept of marriage wasn't about romance. It was about survival, trust, and loyalty in battle. A mate wasn't just a partner. They were a shield, a weapon, and a promise to never leave the other behind. As she spoke, Alex began to see the weight in her eyes. This wasn't just a law. To her people, it was life itself. He found himself respecting her more with every word, even as fear gnawed at his stomach. Suddenly, the orb flashed bright red and emitted a loud tone. Kayla's hand shot to Alex's shoulder instinctively. Pulling him close, the wall screen lit up again, the council's golden eyes staring at them. One of the voices spoke in their heavy language. Kayla listened, her expression unreadable, then turned to Alex, her voice low. "They send assassin." "Tonight," she said. Alex's eyes widened in shock. "What? Why?" "To test bond," Kayla answered coldly. "If we survive together, they believe." The weight of her words hit Alex like a physical blow. This wasn't just pretending anymore. This was life or death. He looked at her, his voice shaking slightly. "And if we fail?" Kayla's golden eyes burned into his, her voice a deadly whisper. "Then they kill us both slowly." The orb's light dimmed, and it floated back to the corner, going silent. Alex ran a hand through his hair, his heart racing. "Assassins. Great, just what I needed," he muttered under his breath. Kayla stood, pulling him up with the glowing chain, her voice sharp and commanding. "Human," she said firmly. "Listen to me now." Alex straightened instinctively at her tone. Kayla stepped close, her face only inches from his. "When they come, you do not run. You do not hide," she said, her voice like steel. "You fight with me. You bleed with me, or we die together." Alex nodded slowly, fear and adrenaline mixing inside him. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay. I'll fight." Kayla studied him for a moment, then gave a single firm nod. "Good," she said, her voice softer now. "Maybe. You are not as weak as you look." Despite the fear, Alex almost laughed. "Thanks." "I think," he said under his breath. Kayla's lips twitched slightly, the faintest hint of amusement flickering there for just a second. The room went silent again, the blue glow of the cuffs the only light between them. Somewhere beyond the walls, the sound of armored boots echoed faintly. Alex felt a chill crawl down his spine. He glanced at Kayla, his voice low and steady. "When they come, we survive, right?" Kayla's golden eyes locked on his, her voice firm and unshakable. "Yes," she said. "Together." And in that moment, Alex realized the truth. They were no longer strangers forced into a bond. They were about to become something far more dangerous, a team, bound by law, survival, and blood. The lights flickered once, and both of them turned toward the door at the same time. The assassins were coming. The first sound was not loud, but sharp enough to cut the silence like a blade. A faint metallic click, followed by the hiss of air. Alex's head snapped toward the door, his heart pounding in his chest. Kella's hand was already on his shoulder, pushing him low to the ground. Her golden eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, her voice a low whisper. "They are here." The room stayed quiet for a heartbeat, then the lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed them, broken only by the faint blue glow of the energy cuffs linking their wrists. Alex felt his breath quicken, but Kella's grip on his arm was steady, firm. He could feel her muscles tense like a coiled spring. A shadow moved near the corner, silent and quick. Alex's eyes widened. But before fear could take over, Kayla yanked him down just as something sliced through the air where his head had been. A thin, glowing blade embedded itself in the wall, humming faintly. Alex's breath caught in his throat. "They're trying to kill us now," he whispered harshly. Kella's voice was calm, sharp as steel. "They test us, or they end us." A second shadow dropped from the ceiling with inhuman speed. Kayla moved like lightning, pulling Alex close as she spun, her legs sweeping low. The assassin hit the ground hard, its black armor shimmering under the faint blue light. Before it could rise, Kayla slammed her glowing cuffs against its throat, releasing a spark of energy that made the creature convulse. Alex stared, stunned. "You just move." Kayla cut him off, yanking him toward the corner. As another assassin slipped through the shadows. This one didn't attack immediately, it circled them, its movements predatory and silent. Alex's pulse hammered in his ears. "We can't fight them all in here," he whispered. Kayla's golden eyes flicked to the ceiling, then to the wall. "We won't," she said firmly. "We escape." She pulled him toward the wall, pressing her hand against a glowing panel. The alien symbols shifted under her touch, and a faint click echoed through the room. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow maintenance passage barely large enough for one person. Alex stared at it. "You've had an escape plan this whole time?" Kella's voice was sharp. "Always," she said simply. "A warrior does not wait for death." The assassin lunged, and Kayla shoved Alex into the narrow passage, just as the blade sliced past. Sparks flying against the wall, she followed quickly, the glowing chain pulling tight as they scrambled through the cramped tunnel. The passage was dark and tight, forcing them shoulder to shoulder, their breath loud in the confined space. Behind them, the hiss of movement echoed the assassins. "We're following." Alex crawled as fast as he could, his palms scraping against the cold metal. "This leads out, right?" he hissed. Kayla's voice was calm, but her pace quickened. "To the lower hangar," she said. "If we reach it, we live, eh?" Sharp noise echoed behind them, then a flash of red light filled the tunnel. Alex ducked instinctively as a plasma bolt scorched the wall inches from his head. "They're shooting at us now," he shouted. Kayla's voice stayed steady. "Good. Means they fear we might escape." They reached a junction where the tunnel split in two. Kayla didn't hesitate, turning left, her movements precise and controlled. Alex followed, his chest heaving, sweat dripping down his neck. He glanced back and saw two dark shapes crawling fast behind them, their armor glowing faintly red in the shadows. Kayla reached another panel and slammed her hand against it. The wall ahead split open, revealing a drop into a large, dimly lit hangar. Alex looked down and froze. "That's a long way down." Kayla didn't waste a second. "Jump," she ordered, shoving him forward. Alex's stomach lurched as he fell, landing hard on a metal platform below. Pain shot up his legs, but he stayed standing. Kayla landed beside him, like a predator, barely making a sound. She grabbed his arm and pulled him toward a row of sleek alien ships. Alarms blared suddenly, red lights flooding the hangar as guards shouted in the distance. Alex stumbled, his voice panicked. "They know we're here." Kella's voice stayed calm but firm. "Then we run faster." They sprinted across the hangar, the glowing chain forcing their movements to sync. For the first time, Alex felt like they were moving as one, his steps matching hers perfectly. A plasma bolt slammed into the floor near his foot, sending sparks flying. Kayla shoved him behind a stack of crates, her voice low and urgent. "Listen, human," she said, grabbing his face and forcing his eyes on hers. "If we make it to that ship, we live. If we do not, we die." Alex nodded quickly, his chest heaving. "Got it," he said, his voice steady despite the fear. Kayla studied his face for a moment, then gave a short, sharp nod. "Good. Now follow." They broke cover, sprinting toward the nearest ship as guards poured into the hangar, shouting in their alien tongue. Kayla moved like water, smooth and deadly, pulling Alex with her as if they had trained together for years. A plasma bolt grazed her shoulder, making her stumble for a second. Alex instinctively wrapped his arm around her, pulling her up without stopping. "Keep going," he shouted. For a brief moment, Kayla's golden eyes met his, and something unreadable flashed there. They reached the ship and Kayla slammed her hand on the control panel. The hatch hissed open, and they scrambled inside as plasma bolts slammed into the hull. Kayla threw herself into the pilot's seat, her fingers flying over alien controls. Alex strapped himself into the nearest seat, his heart pounding. The ship roared to life, the engines glowing with blue fire. The hangar doors began to close, alarms screaming louder. Kayla's voice was sharp and commanding. "Hold on, human," she said. Alex gripped the seat as the ship shot forward, the G-force slamming him back. They slipped through the narrowing doors just as they sealed shut behind them. Space opened around them, vast and silent, stars stretching into infinity. Alex let out a shaky laugh, half relief, half disbelief. We made it," he said breathlessly. Kayla's hand stayed firm on the controls, her golden eyes scanning the stars. "For now," she said quietly. "But they will come." Alex leaned back, his chest rising and falling rapidly. He glanced at her, his voice soft. "You saved my life back there." Kayla's lips curved slightly, though it wasn't quite a smile. "You saved mine too, mate," she said quietly. For the first time, the word didn't feel like a threat. It felt like the start of something neither of them fully understood yet. Asterisk, the stolen ship drifted silently through the black sea of space. Stars shimmered outside the viewport, but inside, the atmosphere was heavy. Alex sat against the cold wall of the small cabin, his chest still rising and falling from the escape. Kayla stood at the controls, her silver hair sticking to her neck where sweat had dried, her golden eyes scanning the endless dark. Neither spoke for a long time. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship's engines. Alex finally broke the silence, his voice low and tired. "So, where do we go now?" Kayla didn't turn, her voice calm but sharp. "Somewhere they cannot find us." Alex leaned his head back, staring at the ceiling. "I still can't believe this," he muttered. "One wrong door, and now I'm married? Or whatever this is." Kayla turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "You mock what you do not understand," she said, her tone steady. "To my people, bond is not game. It is life, shield, blood." Alex sat up, meeting her golden gaze. "I'm not mocking it," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I just didn't choose this." Kayla stepped closer, the blue glow of the energy cuffs between them humming softly. "Neither did I," she said simply. "But we are bound now. And if we fail, we die." Her words hit him with the same weight they always did. Alex ran a hand through his hair, letting out a slow breath. "Okay," he said quietly. "Then we figure this out together." For a moment, Kayla's eyes softened. Just a flicker, like a crack in a wall built from steel. She gave a small nod. "Together," she repeated, the word carrying more weight than he expected. Hours passed as the ship glided through the dark. Kayla finally guided it toward a barren moon, its surface gray and scarred. They landed in a hidden canyon, the ship's engines going silent as it powered down. "This place is dead," Alex said, peering out the viewport. Kayla's voice was calm. "Good. Dead places do not betray." They stepped out into the thin, cold air. their boots crunching against the dusty ground. Kayla scanned the horizon, then led him to a small cave. Inside, the walls glowed faintly with blue crystals, casting soft light on their faces. Alex sat on a rock, his body aching from the constant running and fear. Kayla crouched across from him, her movements graceful even in the cramped space. For the first time, they weren't running, fighting, or arguing. It was quiet, and in that quiet, Alex finally spoke what had been gnawing at him. "Back there, when you called me your mate," he said softly, "you didn't hesitate." Kala's golden eyes studied him for a moment before she answered. "A warrior does not hesitate when life is on the line," she said, her tone calm but softer than before. Alex shook his head slightly. "No, I mean, you saved me." Kayla tilted her head slightly, her silver hair falling over one shoulder. "You saved me too, human," she said, "when my shoulder was hit. You held me up." Alex chuckled weakly, rubbing the back of his neck. "Guess we're even then." Kayla didn't smile, but there was a subtle shift in her eyes. "Something lighter." "No," she said quietly, "not even." "Bond is not about debt, it is about trust." The words hung in the air between them. Alex leaned forward slightly, his voice soft. "Can I ask you something?" Kayla gave a short nod. "Why is it so important? This law of your people?" Kayla was silent for a moment, her golden eyes distant. "When my kind go to battle," she said slowly, "we do not fight alone. A mate is not just lover." Her voice softened, almost like a memory. "A mate is shield, back to back in war, promise that even if the stars burn away, you do not fall alone." Alex felt a weight in her words, something deeper than law or tradition. He nodded. Slowly, his voice quiet. "That actually makes sense." Kala's eyes met his, and for the first time, he thought he saw a spark of respect there. The faint hum of the energy cuffs filled the silence again. Alex glanced at them, and then at her. "So, what now?" "We can't run forever." Kayla straightened, her voice calm but firm. "No," she said. "We do not run, we fight." Alex blinked. "Fight? Against who? The assassins? The council?" Kala's golden eyes burned with quiet fire. "Against a lie," she said, her tone sharp. "The law. They use it as chain, not honor." Alex frowned. "You're saying this marriage law isn't about honor at all?" Kala's jaw tightened. "Once, long ago, maybe," she said. "Now, it is control." For the first time, Alex saw not just a warrior, but someone carrying the weight of her people on her shoulders. He leaned forward, his voice steady. "Then we expose them." Kala's eyes snapped to his, studying him carefully. "You would fight a council not yours?" she asked quietly. Alex gave a small, tired smile. "Guess that's what mates do, right?" For a long moment, Kayla said nothing. Then slowly, she reached out her hand, the blue glow of the cuffs making her silver skin shine faintly. Alex hesitated only for a second before placing his hand in hers. Her grip was strong, steady, warm despite the cold cave. "Together," Kayla said softly, the word carrying the weight of a vow. Alex squeezed her hand gently. "Together," he echoed, for the first time since this nightmare began. The fear in Alex's chest shifted into something else. It wasn't safety, not yet, but it was a spark of trust. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to survive what was coming next. Outside, the barren moon stayed silent, but deep in the shadows, far above them, a signal pulsed through the void. The council had found their trail. Time was running out. The barren moon was silent, but Kayla's golden eyes were not on the stars. They were on the small hologram flickering in her hand. A stolen transmission they had intercepted an hour ago. The council's deep voices echoed faintly from the recording. Cold and final. Find them, kill the human, and bring Kayla back in chains. Alex sat beside her, his back against the cave wall. The words sank into his chest like ice. "They're not just testing us anymore," he said quietly. "They want us dead." Kayla shut off the hologram. her jaw tight. "They fear what we are," she said calmly. "A bond outside their control." Alex let out a shaky breath. "Then we can't just keep running," he said, his voice steady despite the fear in his gut. Kella's golden eyes met his, and for the first time he saw hesitation there. "We cannot run," she agreed softly, "but to fight them." "We must go back," Alex blinked, his heart skipping. "Back? You mean the capital?" Kayla gave a single nod, her silver hair falling over one shoulder like liquid light. "The Council's power lies in fear, fear of law, fear of bond," she said, her voice low and sharp. "If we show the truth, in the heart of their empire, we break them." Alex rubbed his face, letting out a short, disbelieving laugh. "So our plan is to walk into the most heavily guarded place in the galaxy, and—" "What? Give a speech?" Kella's lips twitched slightly, though not in humor. "No," she said simply. "We survive long enough to make them listen." The ship's small engines hummed as they powered it up again. Kella's hands moved smoothly over the controls, her every motion precise and calm. Alex strapped himself in, his chest tight with adrenaline. "You've done this kind of thing before, haven't you?" he asked. Kella's voice was flat. "Yes." The barren moon faded behind them as the ship slipped into the cold dark. Hours later, the alien capital rose before them, a massive floating city of silver and blue, glowing like a living star. Alex stared out the viewport, his voice barely above a whisper. "That is terrifying." Kayla didn't respond, her golden eyes fixed on the towering spires ahead. They landed in a hidden maintenance dock Kayla knew from her warrior days. As they stepped out, Alex noticed her hands tremble for just a second before she clenched them into fists. He frowned. "You okay?" Kella's voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed the weight of her next words. "This is my home," she said softly, "and if we fail, it is my grave." The narrow corridors of the capital were cold and silent. Their footsteps echoed softly as they moved through the shadows, the glowing cuff still linking them together. Alex kept his voice low. "What's the plan once we reach the council chamber?" Kayla glanced at him, her golden eyes sharp but unreadable. "The plan," she said, "is not to die before we speak." They slipped into the massive hall through an old warrior's passage Kayla remembered from her training. The council chamber was just beyond, glowing faintly with the same crystal pillars Alex remembered. Kayla stopped suddenly, her hand tightening on his. Alex turned to see her face, and for the first time, the steel in her expression cracked. "Alex," she said softly, his name heavy on her tongue. "If they force me to choose between you and my people, I do not know what I will do." Alex stared at her for a moment, the weight of her words sinking in. His voice was quiet but steady when he spoke. "Then don't choose between us," he said softly. "Choose what's right." Kella's golden eyes searched his face, and something in them shifted, a spark of trust, of respect, maybe even something more. She gave a small nod. "Together," she whispered, almost to herself. The doors to the council chamber slid open, and the massive room fell silent as they stepped inside. The 6 golden-eyed figures turned as one, their cold gazes locking onto them. The guards raised their weapons instantly, shouting in their language. Kayla stepped forward, pulling Alex with her, her voice ringing through the hall like a blade. Her words were sharp, commanding, and filled with fire. Alex couldn't understand the language, but he could feel the weight of every word. Kella's golden eyes burned as she stood before the council. When she finally switched to broken English, her voice was low but powerful. "This human saw me, and I did not kill him," she said, her tone like thunder in the silent chamber. "He fought beside me, bled beside me. He is my mate by choice, not law." The council leader's deep voice boomed through the hall. Kayla answered him with words that dripped with fury and truth. Alex stepped forward, his voice shaky but loud. "She's right," he said, his words echoing strangely in the vast room. "This isn't about honor, it's about control. And you know it." The guards shifted uneasily, murmurs rising in the chamber. Kayla raised her hand high, the glowing cuffs between them shining like fire. "We are bound by survival, not chains," she shouted, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. "If you kill him, you kill me, and if you kill me, you kill every warrior who dares to choose their own path." For a heartbeat, the chamber was silent. Then the council leader spoke one word, and the guards moved forward, weapons raised. Alex's chest tightened, his breath coming fast. "They're going to kill us," he whispered. Kayla's golden eyes didn't waver. "Not if we fight," she said calmly. As the first guard lunged, Kayla yanked Alex close, their backs pressing together. In that instant, Alex understood what she meant when she said a mate was a shield. Their movements sensed without words, her blade flashing as his hands grabbed a fallen weapon. For the first time, they weren't just pretending to be bound. They were the council. Chamber erupted into chaos, weapons clashing, shouts echoing off the crystal walls. Kayla's voice rose above the noise, fierce and alive. "Together, Alex," she shouted, and in that moment, there was no fear, only the bond they had forged in fire and blood. The council chamber burned with light and sound. The clash of weapons echoed against the crystal walls as Alex and Kayla fought back to back. Every breath Alex took was filled with heat and adrenaline, every move a desperate attempt to survive. Kayla's silver hair whipped through the air as she spun, her blade clashing against another guard's weapon, the glowing cuffs linking them. Hummed with every strike, as if the bond itself pulsed with their heartbeat. Alex ducked a swing, his hands gripping the stolen plasma blade tightly. He wasn't a warrior, but in that moment, he didn't have a choice. Kayla's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding. "Stay with me, human." Alex shouted back, his voice raw. "I'm not going anywhere." Two guards rushed at them at once, and for the first time, Alex and Kayla moved perfectly as one. She parried high while he swung low, their movements syncing without words. One guard fell, then another, the sound of their weapons hitting the floor ringing through the hall. The council leader stood, his towering figure stepping forward, his voice booming like thunder. Kayla froze for a fraction of a second, her golden eyes locking onto his. Alex saw something flash in her gaze pane. Memory, betrayal. He realized then that this wasn't just about law or survival. It was about her past, about the chains her own people had wrapped around her for years. The leader raised his hand, and the guards stopped, the room going eerily silent. His deep voice rolled through the chamber, words Alex couldn't understand but could feel. Kayla stepped forward slowly, pulling Alex with her, the blue glow of their cuffs casting light between them. Her voice rang out, filled with fire and defiance. "You call this law," she said in her own language first, then switched to broken English so Alex would hear. "You call it honor. But it is chain." She lifted her arm, the glowing bond between them catching every eye in the chamber. "This human saw me," she continued, her voice sharp and clear, "and instead of shame I found truth. Bond is not law. Bond is choice." The council leader spoke again, his voice colder this time. Kayla's golden eyes burned brighter. "Then hear my choice," she said, her tone cutting through the silence like a blade. "I choose him." Alex felt the weight of her words hit the air, heavy and undeniable. The murmurs in the chamber rose like a storm, the guards shifting uneasily. The leader slammed his staff down, the sound echoing like a crack of thunder. Weapons raised again, the air thick with tension. Alex stepped forward before he could stop himself, his voice loud. "You can't kill us for this," he shouted, his hands shaking but his words steady. "You can't call it honor if you're too afraid of the truth." The council leader's gaze turned to him, cold and unyielding. Kayla stepped closer to Alex, their shoulders touching, her voice low but fierce. "Stand with me now, human," she whispered. Alex nodded, his chest tight but his voice steady. Always, the guards moved, but Kayla moved faster. She slammed the cuffs against the crystal floor, and the energy between them exploded in a flash of blue light. The shockwave knocked the first line of guards back, their weapons clattering. To the ground, Alex stumbled but stayed on his feet. Gripping her hand tightly, the explosion of energy wasn't just power, it was the bond itself. The glowing cuffs shattered, the light spreading across the room like living fire. For a moment, everything was silent, every eye on them. Kayla raised her voice one final time. Her words sharp and unbreakable. "No more chains," she said. Her voice echoing in both languages. "No more false law. Bond is choice." The leader's staff lowered slowly, the weight of her words sinking into the chamber like gravity itself. One by one, the guards lowered their weapons, murmurs spreading like fire through the room. For the first time, Alex saw fear not in Kayla's eyes, but in the council's. Kayla turned to him slowly, the fire in her gaze softening. "You are free now, human," she said quietly. Alex let out a shaky laugh, his chest still tight. "Free? After all that, I don't think either of us are walking away from each other now." For a heartbeat, Kayla said nothing, then slowly she reached out her hand, not forced this time. Not bound by glowing cuffs, Alex took it without hesitation. Their fingers locking together naturally. Kayla's lips curved slightly, the faintest hint of something warm breaking through her steel. "Then maybe we are mates after all," she said softly. The council chamber stayed silent, but Alex knew in that moment the law was broken, not by weapons, not by force, but by choice. And as Kaylee led him out of the chamber, their hands still locked, he realized something. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was the start of something far bigger than both of them. The ship lifted off hours later, the capital shrinking behind them. Alex sat in the co-pilot seat, staring out at the endless stars. Kayla stood beside him, her golden eyes watching the void. For the first time since they met, there was no fear between them, only quiet trust. Alex glanced at her, a tired smile tugging at his lips. "So, what now?" Kayla's eyes met his, and for the first time, her voice carried a hint of something soft beneath the steel. "Now, we choose our own path," she said. Alex leaned back in his seat, the weight of everything they had been through settling on his shoulders. He glanced at her again, his voice quiet but sure. "Guess I better get used to alien in-laws." Kayla tilted her head slightly, her lips curving just enough to almost be a smile. "Yes, you better," she said, and as their ship disappeared into the dark, two unlikely mates bound by accident, law, and choice, the stars seemed just a little closer than before.